Actually, using the 3D printer is really easy. The 3D printer prints the object for you. The most difficult part is actually the idea that you put in. So there's lots of innovations around us thinking about teaching and learning from lots of different modes, and 3D printing really facilitates that. Generally what you have is you have a 3D model, and what happens is the software slices that 3D model into really, really thin layers. Then what happens is the printer almost kind of treats it like it's each layer is like printing on paper. So that's where the idea of printing comes from. The only difference is with 3D printing is that it's taking all of those layers and then printing on top of each other. So that's why it becomes three-dimensional. So there's a lot of benefit that these technologies bring to post-secondary education. For example, we have a student who built his own 3D printer using parts that he printed on our 3D printers. And he's in health sciences. And it seems a little disconnected that he would do something as a health sciences student with 3D printing until he tells you that he wants to go to dentistry school. We have used this for faculty who are creating tools to help them with teaching. Lars came in to the Maker Studio, I would say close to 6 months ago. And he started printing the DNA parts. As he's teaching genetics, he understands that some of the parts attract and some of the parts repel. So he altered the model slightly so that he could then embed some magnets so that students would really get that tactile experience of how the DNA is built together. And in a lot of ways, it's learning through play. You're building objects, feeling the magnets pull or repel. You're getting that really physiological response to your learning. And so there's just a lot of different ways of learning that. I think it's really great because it really makes a difference when you're learning about something that's three-dimensional. It makes sense to learn it in a three-dimensional way as opposed to looking at an image on the screen. You don't know when emerging technology is going to is really going to interrupt an industry that you didn't think it was going to. And so for students to have that literacy around all of the technologies that are available in the library is really essential to students having those 21st century learning skills that they're going to graduate with. I think it's a really nice bridge to thinking about objects and thinking about the impacts of objects in our everyday lives, whether we're thinking about us as consumers, or whether we're thinking, for entrepreneurship or for business, or if we're thinking about them as tools of communication, because objects communicate very, very powerfully. But also thinking about that hands-on learning. Even though the 3D printer is outputting parts, you're doing that hands-on learning by engaging with the 3D printer. And it may not necessarily be embedded into their coursework, but it is really important that all of our students have had experience with all of the different technologies that are emerging so that they're prepared for their future careers, whatever they might be in.